Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to introduce our next session. So this is a teacher librarian's approach to blended, student-centered, and personalized learning. And I am here to introduce Amy McMillan. She is a teacher librarian at a public junior high school. She is an Apple teacher as well as a Google Certified Innovator and Google Certified Trainer. She holds a national board certification in English Language Arts. And so everyone, let's welcome Amy McMillan.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. The one thing I'm nervous about is this microphone because I'm not used to them. So tell me if I'm, making squeaking noises or if you can't hear me, please. So here's my information. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Amy J. McMillan, and I'm a teacher librarian at Goleta Valley Junior High School, which is in Santa Barbara Unified School District. I have my friends right here from Santa Barbara Unified. Thank you. I'm a new teacher librarian. I've only been at it for a year and a half. And so before that, I was an English teacher for 19 years, and 3 of those years I was a tech coach part of the time, while teaching English part of the time. So for this presentation, it's kind of remnants of my tech coach days when our school district is really, they're exploring blended and personalized learning as a model for all of our students. And so now that I'm in the library, I'm wondering, well, how does that work in the library? My point of view has changed a little bit. And so this presentation is more, I'm thinking of myself as a lead learner, and I still have a lot of questions about it, so I'm hoping you'll have ideas of what is our role as school librarians if we're working in schools that are moving in this direction. And we'll talk about what I mean by blended and personalized learning a little bit as it goes on. I just want to mention a little bit about my journey in ed tech, because I really wasn't always a techie person. I graduated from UC Santa Barbara in 1997, not owning a computer. I had one of those Brother word processor things. Did anybody have one of those? I mean, that was tech for its time. It was really cool, but no internet or anything like that. And then when I started teaching at Santa Barbara Junior High in 1999, they didn't give me a computer. I didn't have a computer. Did anybody else start teaching without a computer? Yeah, and I eventually bought my own, but I've just been learning over the years. And so here are some of the little steps on my journey. One really important part of it was the South Coast Writing Project, which I did in 2006. It's comes out of UC Santa Barbara, and it kind of got me thinking of myself as a professional and being willing to go and do presentations like this. And then actually my friend Amy Woods and I and another teacher got a grant one year in 2010 to learn about Google Docs and how to implement them in the classroom, because it wasn't being done in our district. And then I eventually did the National Board Teacher Certification, and I became a Google Certified Innovator, but they called it Google Certified Teacher then, which I prefer. And then they changed it to Google Certified Innovator. And then I did the trainer status, which I'm not renewing because my school district went 1-to-1 iPads. And so I found that the Google Trainer, you have to keep renewing it all the time. It's really becoming more and more about Chromebooks. So, I've transitioned more to iPad learning. And then I went to the San Jose State University for my teacher librarian credential in MLIS, and I finished that up in 2017. Oh, and I do have a little blog, amyjmcmillan.blog, which honestly I used to blog a lot more before I became a teacher librarian, because I don't know, I'm learning this job, and I don't have the creativity flowing because I'm kind of mentally exhausted at the end of the day, but I still blog sometimes. So yeah, like I said, my school district is 1-to-1 iPads. So every student, it's which grades? Is it grades 3 to 12 have an iPad? The teachers are all given a MacBook Air and an iPad for instruction. We have Apple TVs for mirroring during our instruction. And we have really good Wi-Fi finally. It took them many years to get it going, but it's very robust and consistent. And I should knock on wood, but we very rarely have problems with it now. So I just mentioned that because that's kind of my situation, and some of what I'm talking about will take that for granted, but I'm curious, how many other people in here work in a one-to-one environment? Is it Chromebooks? Yeah. That's our school district went iPad, but most people went Chromebook. Does anybody work in an environment that's like carts in classrooms? Okay, so pretty much everyone has daily access to technology for students, or? Okay. I mean, it's not required for blended learning at all, but that's just my situation, so it's what I've been working on the most. And so today, here's the plan. We'll define the terms. Personalized learning, blended learning, student-centered learning might be another one to throw in. And then I put in an exploration of OERs, open education resources, because if you start to go with online instruction, where's the content coming from becomes the next thing. And then just logistics, like how do you deliver it? And then we probably won't have time for number 4, which is to test out a few ideas, but it will be all on the materials I'm going to share with you, so you can test it out when you have time. So here's the question that I want you to keep in the back of your mind. It's my question. I knew what to do as a classroom teacher if I wanted to try blended learning. I kind of knew I can just try it. It's my classroom. I can do whatever I want. But now that I'm in the school library and I'm collaborating with other teachers, how do I support them? What is my role? And just be thinking about it. But at the end of the session, I will ask you to write your ideas on that question. So here's where the materials are that I want you to follow along on. It is, if you have a Google account and you want to do it. If you just want to watch me, you're welcome to watch me. But if you want to interact and kind of experience a quasi-blended learning lesson, then do the red bit.ly link if you have a Google account. Or you can scan the QR code. If you don't have a Google account, you can still look at the doc if you do this gold one. So let me just give you a minute to find it's a Google Doc, and it'll ask you to make a copy. It'll prompt a copy if you're doing the red link. So I'll just walk around and help you if you need it, but let me give you a minute to find the materials. And by the way, if you're doing something like this with students, Google Classroom is a much easier way to share materials, obviously. But I didn't know who had Google accounts, and I just, if you don't know about that, then you can use a short link. But if you're using this kind of thing with students, you do have to walk around and really help quite a bit with the bit.ly/. However, if you work with the same group of students a lot of times, they get used to it. Is everybody finding it? Oh yeah, I was trying it before, and I think sometimes the Wi-Fi is a little slow in here. This bit.ly link is also on the Sched if you get a little behind and you want to find it. But you can also just watch, okay? So I'm going to move on. Yeah? Everyone done? Okay. So you should be looking at a doc that starts like this. I didn't make the template. It's from hyperdocs.co, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. Have you heard of hyperdocs.co? I just copied the template, and then I put in what I wanted it to have. And I chose the hero's journey one because the 7th graders at my school, they study the hero's journey, and I think it's fun. But if you look it over, it'll have the steps of today's lesson, starting with phase 1, the call to adventure. And then the learning targets, you should look at them on your own device, not up here. These slides I've made just so you can know what part of the doc I'm talking about. But look on your own so you can read it. But these are the things I want to do with you today. Define personalized, blended, and student-centered learning. Explore OERs, open education resources. Read about 3 models for packaging digital lessons. That's probably as far as we'll get, honestly. But if we went to the end, we'd create a digital lesson. And then the other goal is to use 4 different formative assessment and engagement tools to report thinking. So we'll use Answer Garden, Google Forum, Google Doc, and then Socrative or Socrative. I'm not sure how to say it. Does anybody know that? Socrative? I don't know, but I use it a lot. It's really good. And if you've never used it, you'll find out about it today. So the first part is, oh, that's nice and big for you. I forgot I made that. First part is phase 1, the call to adventure. And so what I'm going to do with this particular HyperDoc is I'm going to take you through it step by step, like I would with a class when they're not used to this kind of learning, because you can't just give students something like this and be like, click the links and go. They won't do it. And it actually takes a long time for them to get in the habit. And I don't really like to just give them it, and even when they're used to it, it's not like just here, do this, and then tell me when you're done, because that gets really boring for them. It's more like, do a little bit, and then let's talk, do a little bit, and let's talk. But the thing that's really nice is that when you have the whole lesson in one place, if somebody's absent, or if somebody needs more time, or if somebody wants to work ahead, they have it all there. So anyway, we'll look at phase 1, the call to adventure. We'll watch a little bit of this video of Sal Khan, and then look at an infographic about student-centered learning, and you'll respond to it on Answer Garden. You don't have to start the response now, but just know to think of that question in your head. What is personalized and or student-centered learning based on these 2 texts we're going to look at? So Sal Khan, the founder of Khan Academy, who's, that is really one of the biggest models for personalized learning. And let's just watch a little bit of this video.
The simple answer is that most nations and states are kind of intertwined. I think we've all sat in a class and we're either a little bit lost, or we might be a little bit bored, or maybe some combination of both. And you're like, maybe there's a way to do this that's more engaging, where we allow students to learn at their own pace. And more classrooms move towards personalization, towards mastery-based learning, to free up class time for more human interaction. Any other ideas of nations? Yeah.
They can make laws for the states. They can print money.
I really love school. I had some of my best memories in it. I still remember Miss Krause and Miss Roussel that first day of 2nd grade when I went into that class, and they said, well, what are you interested in? I was 7, and they were serious. And I said, well, I like to draw, I like games. They're like, well, then you'll draw and you will work on games. And I thought I was getting away with something, like, is this really school? But it allowed me to learn things that I found interesting. And today, my best memories are of what started that day with Miss Krause and Miss Roussel.
So can you tell me something that you need to work on?
Well, sometimes I struggle in KA.
I've always been fascinated by this personalization in education. I thought that there was a lot of opportunity for getting more people to get much further if they were allowed to learn at their own pace, fill in their gaps. And with software, you can start to do some of this personalization, you can start to do some analytics, and it could scale. So I started writing software, and I called that software Khan Academy. And it was a friend that suggested, hey, why don't you record some of your lessons as videos and upload them onto YouTube to complement this software? And I decided to give it a shot, but they just took on a life of their own. Then people started to say how these videos had got them from failing out of a class to going back and getting an A in it. That's what gave me the conviction. Maybe one day 1 million people could use it, maybe 10 million, maybe 1 billion people. Khan Academy's mission is to provide a free world-class education.
Okay, I'll stop it right there. We watched about half of it. And then, if you were in my class, say, and we were doing this, you could watch it more at your leisure. And then I have linked below it is a little infographic from Todd Finley, who he blogs for Edutopia, and he tweets a lot, and he makes these brain blast things. So what I'd like you to do here before you respond on the Answer Garden is take a look at this infographic about student-centered learning and just skim. And if you see something that strikes you as a good idea for teaching, just have a little chat with the person who's sitting next to you. I'll give you a couple minutes. Just skim and say, oh, I think, number 9 looks good. I could do that in my school or in my library. Okay, so take a couple minutes. Okay, kind of bring your conversations to a close. What struck you as a good idea from this brain blast, on student-centered learning? What would work in your environment? Anybody? And I don't know if you have to use the microphone. You might have to use the microphone. PBL, and actually, I was talking to somebody else who picked number 9. Why PBL? Yeah, thank you. Project-based learning. Yeah, in echoes. Anybody else find one? Here, let me give you the microphone, I think. I know, sorry.
Reminded me of UDL, the Universal Design for Learning, where you let kids sort of choose the way they're going to demonstrate how they're learning. And so that's sort of number 12, varying approaches, and also offering, number 4, offering choice. So they demonstrate their learning in a way that they're most comfortable. And also assessments are sort of changed depending on what they're trying to demonstrate.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, like I started this presentation, I'm just a lead learner here, and I know you might be thinking, well, there are problems with some of these. Like, I don't see how some of these could work. Same with personalized learning, as Sal Khan was describing it. I'm not here to tell you, like, this is the solution. I need to explore these things for my school district and to see how it works. And I meant to say this sooner. I feel that as school librarians, we need to decide how we think we should have a role in this and how we think it should look. Because if we don't, then somebody else will tell us what they think we should do, and I'd rather have control of the conversation. So that's one of my goals here. Okay, so now at this point, if you're on the HyperDoc, all you have to do is click click to write your response, and it will go to Answer Garden. If you did not get that, you can, if you want to participate, you can either type in answergarden.ch, press the search, and join with that little numeric code, or you can scan the QR code. And then you get only 20 characters, so we're like 1 or 2 words. Yeah, 1 or 2 words. That one. The top answer. Oh yeah, we're right. Yeah, let me put it back for you. When you're typing your answers, is it coming up for you also as a word cloud? Okay, good. So the ones that are bigger, I think, are the ones that came in more than once. So student choice, interest-based. What else we have? Student ownership, differentiation out there in the corner. Mastery learning. I'm glad somebody wrote mastery learning because that's another phrase I'm hearing a lot where I work that people are really interested in. They're doing focus groups about mastery learning. There are more. Let's see if I can refresh it. Are you seeing more than me? Let's see here. And then if you kind of hover, it'll say how many people put in something. Yeah, so the reason I had you do this, instead of me telling you what I think personalized learning and student-centered learning is because that's kind of part of the model. Like you don't tell the students what it is. They have to explore and figure it out for themselves. And yes, you are good learners. You pretty much said all the things I wanted you to say. We didn't talk about blended learning, but blended learning simply means part of instruction is in class, in a regular class, brick and mortar building, and part of it is online. And the thing about blended learning is it can be done really well and it can be done really poorly. It just depends. All that term means is some instruction is online and some's in the class. All right, thank you for participating in that. And then let me just go to the next thing. And by the way, I want to say we've just done the first goals of the journey. We have defined personalized, blended, student-centered learning, and then we've also used a formative assessment tool. So that's my little checkpoint. Are my students understanding what I want them to understand right now? You don't want to just give them the HyperDoc or whatever and just have them fill it out. You need to be checking. And technology lets us do that. Here are some, before we go to the next phase, here's some books I looked at when I was thinking about this. The first one, Blended Learning in Action by Caitlin Tucker, Tiffany Wyckoff, and Jason Green is more, it's a overview of how school districts can implement blended learning and how instruction can look, different models of instruction, how to support teachers as they learn how to do blended learning. The second book, the HyperDoc Handbook, is more of a practical guide written by teachers for teachers, just how you can make materials and put them online. So the second one, it has examples, it has free templates, it's just really easy to use, and I really recommend it. The first one helped me think about blended learning and what their point of view of it is. But as far, I bought the HyperDoc Handbook for my library for teachers to use, and they check it out because it's practical. And then that last one, I don't know if it's called EDU protocol or EDU protocol, but EDU, yeah. I just got this one, so I haven't fully absorbed it, but it's just different strategies for how online learning, how it can happen in the classroom. It uses Google Docs a lot and just kind of game-based things, time limit things, kind of fun activities with students. They're using usually Google Docs, doing research, collaborating, and so on. And one of the authors, John Corripo, he's the director of Q, I think, the executive director of Q. So yeah, these 3 books I recommend to you to have in your library if you're interested in learning more about this topic. Okay, so again, you don't have to say anything now. You don't have to report out. You don't have to pair share, but just be thinking, what's our role in this blended, personalized, student-centered learning environment? Let's go to phase 2. This one, for librarians, I think you're going to know a lot of these OERs, but when I work with teachers, they don't really. I mean, we kind of are phasing out textbooks, and then the school district's saying, you should just go online and find your things, find what you want the students to do, but teachers are not, they don't really know. I mean, are you finding that? I have 3 librarians here. They know some, not a lot. They also don't have time. So I made a list of some popular open education resources. You can just click on the link and look at it. And I'll kind of just quickly breeze through it and then give you some time to explore. And what you'll do at the end is you'll click on this link, and I'll give people another way to get in, to share either your favorite OER from my list, or if I forgot one, you can put in another one. And it will be, the responses, everyone will be able to see them. So just kind of keep that in mind. So what we have here is, I'm just really fast going to tell you what they are, but you'll have time to peruse them. So commonlit.org has really good quality texts for ELA, mostly English language arts, and it's always free. The New York Times Learning Network is free articles, lesson plans, tons of good stuff from the New York Times Learning Network. The Smithsonian Tween Tribune or Teen Tribune, you can write either one in, free newspaper articles. They have little self-scoring quizzes. Newseum ED is free resources to cultivate the First Amendment and media literacy skills. There's tons of amazing stuff there, and I went to a presenter at a different CSLA conference, and I was amazed. There's so much stuff I haven't had enough time to absorb it. TED Ed, all the great videos on TED Ed. Hyperdocs.co is the place where I got the template that I'm using today, the Hero's Journey one. Common Sense Education has media lesson flows that are written by teachers of their full units of instruction that include technology that anybody can use. PBS Learning Media has a lot of free content, lots of videos about different standards, and you can search by discipline and standard. Khan Academy, we saw a video with him. I originally prepared this for English teachers, and Khan Academy is known for math, but they are starting to have a few that are appropriate for English language arts. I actually taught the Pixar storytelling lessons once. They're really fun. Crash Course, which is videos, all kinds of topics. ListenWise, which is really, really interesting articles, mostly nonfiction articles that you listen to, and they have little questions for you to listen to. CK12, which is started out for mostly science, but they are building in other subjects as well. So it's lessons, just free lessons, free content. Yeah, it's all audio. And then KQED Learn has really great media literacy lessons for students with these discussion topics that are very relevant and invites them to respond online. Teaching Tolerance, lesson plans for teachers, and their goal is to educate children and youth to be active participants in a diverse democracy. And what else? National Geographic Education, another one I haven't explored very much, but I want to. So they have classroom resources for mostly history and science. Procon.org, which I bet you've seen, where they take issues and give you evidence for each side of the issue. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So take a few moments. We don't have a ton of time, but just peruse the list. When you're done, click share your idea. If you're not on the doc, you can go to this bit.ly link, or you can scan the QR code to just share which one of these you like or have used, or if I forgot one, please put it in. And then we'll be able to see what other people wrote at the end. So I think take about 5 minutes. You can talk to each other. I suggest you do talk to each other while you're looking at this if you want. Also a suggestion, maybe choose 1 or 2 if you really want to dive deep to look at over the 5 minutes. All right? If you're still looking at the OERs, transition over to the response so we can see what you did. And that's okay. That happens in class too, and that's, just what happens. And also, if you are on the Google form, at the end, press see previous responses, and then you see what the other people put in. So like when you press submit, press see previous responses. Yeah, I will. So while some people are finishing up, I'll just say a few words about Google Forms. I think that they are the easiest thing to use over and over in teaching once you get the hang of them. Do I have any other people in here who love the Google Forms? Like, it looks confusing to people who are just learning it, but once you get it, it's just so easy and you can use them for almost anything you want. When I'm working with students and they're doing this, I often have them do something like this when they come into the library. Do you see how it says the responses that I've gotten? I just ask the teacher, how many kids are in this class? 32. Okay, I have 28 responses. I'm waiting for 4 more people. You know, kids work at different paces, so I will often say, if you're still writing, finish up. And we have iPads, so I say, if you're done writing, close the iPad so that they don't go off into some other world of the iPad. But what I like to do is after I get some responses, I ask students to read either their own response or another person's response, like, because sometimes they don't want to volunteer their own idea, but I still want them to talk in class. I don't just want them to be like typing on their iPad all day. So I say, okay, you know, look over the other people's responses and say one that you like. I mean, obviously this is not the topic I'm doing with students, but it's a way for them to feel safe about, you know, saying an idea in class. And you know what's really funny is they often say their own idea and pretend like it wasn't. So yeah, and it's kind of, it's anonymous kind of, like you can see the people's names at the top, but only a few students realize the first name is the first person on the list. Only one kid in several years has ever mentioned that to me. So yeah, All Sides is a good idea. Has anybody else here heard of All Sides or used All Sides? Yeah, that's a really great site where it's about media bias. You could Google it right now if you want to check it out. And they put headlines for the same news topic from different news sources right next to each other, so you can see how the same news story can be talked about in different ways. It's really interesting. Crash Course. What else we got? Copyrightandcreativity.org. Yes, I got to add that to my list. Who put that? If you want to say the copyrightandcreativity.org. Do you want to say a little bit about it? Do you mind? You don't have to, because you'll have to use the microphone. I know.
I present and I don't even use a mic. It says it up there. It teaches copyright and fair use. I just went to their presentation, actually. I've seen the site. Sadly, I don't think it's highly used in my own district right now, but it's actually really cool. It has lessons and everything that you can need and videos, and the biggest issue is people don't understand fair use, especially educators, and the difference between copyright and plagiarism, and it teaches all of that as well, which is great for students.
Yeah, I saw them present in a different CSLA workshop, and it was really great. So thank you for putting that on. So this concludes phase 2 of our hero's journey. And you know, if I press refresh, I'll see the latest responses here as well. But before we move on, I want to mention something that one of my colleagues said that she doesn't want to say out loud. But I will say it because it's true. One problem, and I don't know if this is happening in other places, is that some school districts are not purchasing new curriculum. And the suggestion is for teachers to just find stuff. And so open education resources are a way, you know, for them to do it legally and ethically, because it's free to use. Teachers aren't always interested in that. But as school librarians, I feel like we should, you know, kind of encourage them to stick with the open education resources when we can. However, my colleague was saying, well, teachers need curriculum. Like, shouldn't they need some curriculum because they don't have time to look online but that's not what this presentation is about. I'm aware there are problems, but we can help them as we'll help them, right? Okay, let me get back to the presentation here. Oh, I wanted to mention that if you want to do that activity with Google Forms, I use it a lot for starters and exit tickets. And if you want to have them look at each other's responses, you go into the settings and you check see summary charts and text responses. And kids need some training to do that, but they get used to it. And it's more fun for them when they know that their classmates are going to see what they wrote. And actually, I won't go on and on, but it's really a fun routine to get to do once they learn how to do it. All right, so now the next part, let me see what time, is called Meeting the Mentors. And so I put 2 models. They are not the only models for blended instruction, but they're a really good place to start. There's How to Create Hyperdocs. The people who wrote that book about hyperdocs that I showed you in the beginning. And then they have a little checklist of what makes a hyperdoc, because I've seen the main creator, Lisa Highfill, speak a few times. Has anybody else seen her speak? She always says, it's not a doc with links. It's not a doc with links. It's a whole lesson that has a purpose and a theme. And it's not, if you're putting links on a doc, that's fine. But she likes to say that's not what a hyperdoc is. And then the interactive learning menu is the one that there's a picture of right there, where it's all about giving students choice. So they, have to get tic-tac-toe before they're done with the assignment. And so this is also the third way you can have students engage when they're doing blended learning, is just type on the Google Doc, obviously. And that's the easiest thing to do when you are short on time and you're planning, is you just say, you write all your responses in the white part of the Google Doc. So those of you who have editing rights, feel free to just take a few little notes down on the bottom of what you see. And I'm just gonna show you really fast. So the top one, How to Create Hyperdocs, is, let me see if I can find it. No. So this is their site. You can take a look at that. She explains what she thinks of as a hyperdoc. And then the learning menu one, let me see if I can make this bigger. Nope, I can't. Oh yeah. So the idea is you take this board and make it about any topic. I've seen many. Have you seen this around? Yeah, I've seen it like all over the place. This one happens to be for reading, but it can be about any topic, and it's a way to give kids choice, but also have them do the thing like they have to do to get tic-tac-toe. They have to do the center one if that's the one you really need for them to do for the assignment. And then I think that's it. Let me see here. Oh, I also wanted to point out in that gold, if you've already seen those things and you're kind of sick of it or something, I really recommend looking at this article right here called Blended Learning, A Path to Personalization by Caitlin Tucker, because she has 4 models of how it actually looks in a classroom, which I haven't really seen it anywhere else, like in a practical way. So check out that article if you've already seen hyperdocs and learning menus. And then just take a couple minutes. We're doing the speeded up version of blended learning, but take a few minutes, look at one of those things, and then just to experience the whole hyperdoc thing, jot down a couple notes that you want to remember in the white box. I'm not grading you, so you don't really have to, but that's the idea. So, and please talk to each other. If you see something cool and you want to share it, just talk to the person next to you. All right, so 3 minutes. So just out of curiosity, if you were going to write notes in that white box, was there anything you saw just now in the quick 3 minutes that you thought, oh, that's a good idea, or something that you thought, I don't think that would ever work, or something that you want to explore more? Yeah.
I'm very appreciative with that, what was that? The article about the 4 ways to do it, because I've tried to implement it, and so having those like practical steps and ideas about how you can do it in your classroom. So she mentions like stations, so I'm very interested in doing that.
Yeah, I really like her blog. I recommend her blog on all of this stuff. Yeah, she's a teacher, so it's going to be practical what she's saying. There's still questions, of course, like if you put all these, for example, we were talking about the playlist one, which is basically like you're writing an essay, and first you're going to watch this video that I'm linking here, and then you're going to do this activity and annotate, and then you're going to do this. Would the kids do it? Like, would they do the links and then do the activities? How are you coaching them? You know, there are open questions, but if you want to try any of these things, it's really clearly laid out for you of how you can give it a try. Anybody else? Or maybe something that you've done that is in one of these that worked or didn't work. I'd love to hear it. Or something that you liked that you just looked at. I agree. Makerspaces, we're doing it. We're giving them choice. In fact, sometimes I'll plan a program in the Makerspace and they don't do it, and then they just grab something else, and I'm like, okay, you know, right? We allow them that, but it's not. It's sort of like outside of their curriculum often, you know what I mean? How can we bring that into the classroom so that they feel like, oh, I want to go do that because I'm working on this thing, and you know, it's mine, and I want to do it some more. That's what's so hard. And I taught English for 19 years, so I really know, like, there are standards that I needed to cover, and I have to do them. Like, how much choice can I give them when there's this test at the end of the year? You know, that's a real tension for me. All right, so because of time, I'm gonna keep us rolling. Yeah, again, you know, I know, like I said, I knew what to do as a tech coach. I knew what to do as an English teacher. But now what do I find resources for teachers and help them put them on a doc? Do I make the thing for them to use? I have a worry that if I'm not involved, they won't come to the library anymore. Everything's online. They'll just make their own thing, and I want to help them. So just keep thinking about it. This is the transformation part of the hero's journey. I knew we wouldn't have time, but I put it in the hero's journey doc because it was an essential part of the hero's journey. Because in the transformation, you take a lesson and then you transform it into a blended learning lesson. So I have the hyperdocs.co. I'm going to show them to you. We're not going to do it. And the interactive learning menu. And then I put a couple of multimedia tech sets that I just did in the library, in my short time in the library, that you are welcome to use. I want to mention that if you're new to working with Google Docs, and if your students are new to working with Google Docs, you want to teach them how to make copies of things. And when I had my own class, I started putting this workflow on every single thing I gave them if they had to do something like make a copy or save a file or whatever. And I taught them how it works. So like each one of these is a step to the next step. And students can learn that. Like they can look for the thing in red and they can see all the steps once you take them through it a few times. So for example, let me see here. Let's say that you wanted to make a copy of a hyperdoc template. I know a lot of you know how to do this, but just in case. So you would click on the templates link if it is working. Is it not working? Let's see here. Oops. That link is a bummer link, but let me go back. Go to maybe hyperdocs.co. I think this site is really a time saver for all of us. And just choose a template. In fact, you can do this with me if you want. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. So I think the one I used is on here. Yeah, see, here's my hero's journey one. So you can see I did very little of the design, which is fun to do, but I don't have time. So I'm gonna choose, this is my other favorite one. I like this workshop model one. So you click on the template. You have to have a Google account, of course. And it comes up as view only. And then you just file, make a copy. And then you can do whatever you want with it. So you plug in your lesson. And the reason to use the template, besides that, I think they have good design. They are leading you to do a good lesson, with steps for connection, teaching and learning engagement, independent. So it's not a doc with links, it's an actual lesson. So that I would use a lot if you aren't already. And you are welcome to copy these library ones as well if you want. Okay, so this whole time, I got 5 minutes, which is perfect. This whole time, I've been asking, in your opinion, what is the role of the teacher librarian in a blended learning environment, or personalized learning, or student-centered learning? Just kind of think of all three. That's the question I want you to answer, and I use this app, Socrative, as an exit ticket a lot, and I'll display the responses on here without your names, because that's what I do with students. Like, I can hide your names, but that's the way we can learn from each other. And so go ahead and it's an app, but you can also go to the site. So just type it in, socrative.com. Students have a lot of trouble spelling that, so, the app is a lot easier if you have them for any length of time. And then choose student login. I think you have to press, I think they changed, I think there's another little press before student login. Let me look at it. Or it's like, you'll figure it out. And then when it asks you for a room name, it's GVJHS Library, because I'm from Goleta Valley Junior High School. So GVJHS Library. And when you get there, it will ask you 3 questions. The last one will be the one in the black box here. Yeah, if you get to the end, it will say, write your answer to the teacher question. That's the teacher question. Is anybody having trouble getting in? And if you get the flashing it's a hexagon, I think, then you're done. You actually don't have to stay there. You can close it up. It won't show you anything unless I put a new question. Does anybody still need this? GVJHS Library. Got it? Okay. I'm going to start showing you the answers. By the way, this is free. So you get one room. That's why I have this one room called GVJHS Library. I use it all the time. It's really bare bones. It's pretty easy to learn, though, and it's pretty easy for students to use. Because of time, there's only 1.5 minutes. I'm just going to start looking at these and maybe reading a couple. Oh, but first I want to point out, for just the practical people out there, you can hide you can show the names, or you can hide the names. I usually hide the names, but since I'm the teacher, I can hide the answers, because you know how sometimes kids put something weird. I just hide it, and then I walk over to the student and I say, "You need to do that again," and they're like, you know. So it's just really easy for teachers. All right, so we got one right here. The teacher's role is not the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side. Facilitator down here. Look at this. Help teachers do it. Do it for librarian lessons on research and copyright. Optional. I've tried stations, but not always successfully. I like Catlin Tucker's diagram of the different stations in activity. Yes, me too. Look at this. Teacher librarians help design and also search and curate the appropriate and engaging resources required for a successful blended learning environment. We can work with classroom teachers about their learning objectives, take content that they like to use, or introduce them to new content to help them achieve their instructional learning objectives. Thank you. I love that one. By the way, sometimes I do this in class. We read them, and then a student, I will say, who said that? Do you want to say? And sometimes they want to say. And also, there's another feature on here that is really cool. It's not the exit ticket one. It's called Short Answer, when you just have a question for students. They can vote on their favorite. It's like a little poll. The answers all come to them, and they can vote on their favorite anonymously without names, and then they see like the data coming up. And sometimes the student who wins is not often. The student who wins, gets the most votes, is not the best student in the class, but their peers will have voted that they had the best answer. It's pretty cool. Let me see. Before you go, let me just check out one more. The librarian's role is to help support teachers by collaborating to create units, curation and modeling for teachers who are hesitant. This is really helping me. So thank you for these great responses. If you're not done, please finish it up. I'm going to move away because of people's time. And then that is pretty much it. We don't have time for questions, but you are welcome to direct message me on Twitter, or and my email is on my amyjmcmillan.blog website, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thanks for coming.